Hello, hello, hello. Yes, that's Christmas music because I forgot to change the playlist. But that's okay, because we all have a drink and it'll make it all better. What is going on, everybody? Sardog, good point. Bringing that to my attention. It's a nice lo-fi beat, you know what I mean? Most of the songs on that playlist don't actually sound, they're not like straight up jingle bells like that. They're usually just kind of like lo-fi chill beats, because my other playlist is like super hi-fi and everything, and so I didn't want to play it. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Wrestling with Whiskey Weekly, the best damn bourbon whiskey spirit show on the internet. What is going on to all of my friends out there in television, internet style land? I hope you are all well. We are 2 weeks in to 2021. I've asked a couple of people what their bourbon and whiskey resolutions are, because we're still in a real weird situation, and there's a lot going on, and there might be a lot more going on, and the whiskey and alcohol industry has been changed, and I think it will be in many ways forever changed by this past year. But it's good to have you guys. Wes, of course, in the house. Tim, what is going on? Tim, one of our patrons who will be coming up with us on the new riff pick that we've got going on. We'll talk more about all kinds of developments that we got today as far as the Wrestling with Whiskey Single Barrel Club. Sardog, what's going on, of course, and DDT, what's up? Appreciate you going on. Evan in the house as well. What is going on? Yes. So I mean, we'll get into that. We'll kind of cover some brief, just like Wrestling with Whiskey news today. Didn't expect all this news to come in, but I woke up and I got some emails, and yes, indeed, click, boom. So first and foremost, we are picking our new riff. We've talked about this before. Our new riff pick is set for January 23rd. We will go and pick quarter barrel of new riff bourbon. But with all the bottles, the club is claiming we're going to go a little bit beyond a quarter barrel, which is kind of cool. We're still, small growing club. So I love to see when we have more than enough people grabbing at bottles. And you guys, if you've ever had them, those new riff picks are pretty spectacular. And I don't want to say anything. Even though the barrel selection choice is a little bit different this time. I don't know if we don't have quite as many options as they normally do because of COVID regulations and everything. But I'm just saying, the last 2 or 3 times I've been there for Wrestling with Whiskey picks that we used to do with Cork and Bottle out of Kentucky, they roll out some pretty damn good. Like, I don't want to jinx it, but they've rolled out some pretty exceptional, like, all the new riff single barrels I've had are pretty darn good, but they've rolled out some exceptionally good our Whiskey Mania pick 1 and 2, I'm sorry, I'm going to brag about them, I think are freaking fantastic. If you've been lucky enough to try them, I love them. I am nursing the crap. I've got 1 full bottle of each that I don't want to touch until, I'm done. And I've got a half bottle left of Whiskey Mania 2, and it's killing me because it's so good. But anyway, that's what we have to look forward to in there. So we've got 4 or 5 members of the Wrestling with Whiskey Single Barrel Club coming with us to pick that. So it'll be kind of the first mini meeting of the group in person, which will be fun. And then we got news about our next barrel pick, which I wasn't expecting for another month maybe, to be able to get samples and stuff, but I just heard back from George Remus Bourbon, who, if you watch this show, you know that I named the Remus Barrel Program my favorite barrel program of 2020. I think I liked it better than the Old Forester barrel strengths. I thought they were more consistent quality. That 36% rye MGP mash bill that everyone loves, I think is still very, very good at the 5-6 year point that they're putting it out at. MGP's had compared to their previous boon, a rough couple of years, but I do like what they're doing with the Remus line. I think they have some great mash bills. I think they've got some great whiskey. And this is, I said this in the Discord today. They have an interesting, I'm not sure if this is just an Illinois allocation or what the deal is, but their representative told me that they're only allocating and selecting barrels between now and early March. And then you're going to have to be a little bit of a waiting period because they're not going to deliver the barrels until Bourbon Heritage Month, September. Like I said, that might be the Illinois allocation, or it might be kind of generally speaking. But we were able to snag a barrel of Remus for the Wrestling with Whiskey Single Barrel Club. So I will be getting samples of those hopefully within the week, by next week. I don't know if I'll have them as early as next Wednesday, which I would love to do the selection next Wednesday, but I want to make sure I can get the samples, have it kind of divvied out, and I'm going to send it to two of our patrons to help us pick that. So that's very, very cool, and that'll be very exciting. So get excited for that. And you know what? While we're at it, I also found out our Woodinville that we picked back in October is finally on its way in. The Woodinville Cask Strength Whiskey is available to our members. I shared that link both in our Patreon and our Discord for pre-sale, along with the discount code if you are a Wrestling with Whiskey Single Barrel Club member. That came out. That will be coming down later at the end of the month. So let's get the schmoozing out of the way at the beginning. If you're not part of the Single Barrel Club, you can join us. We're now 2 tiers to the Patreon, to the Barrel Club. Tier 1 gets you the opportunity to maybe help me pick barrels, gets you the chance to vote on picks if we have multiple options. I do a couple little extra content. Things I just did a thing today where I'm going to go back and visit rare releases to see if the hype was really worth it, and what I think if you're trying to hunt them down today. So some extra content, but your voice is really heard and you get a chance to be a part of some of these picks going forward. And if you want to do tier 2, it's just kind of an extra thing. I want to use the social media audience that I do have to boost you out. So jump on there for $15 a month. You'll get your own Wrestling with Whiskey Weekly live episode. We'll interview you, and we can just talk about you, your business, your life, whatever it is, or we'll drink some whiskey and just chat back and forth about it because we like it, because that's what we do. And speaking of which, I just want to say to our first couple of social media sipping, here's one of the shout outs. Thank you to Steph, Jason, Mark, and Travis. Go check them out. All of those are for sure Instagram handles. Some of them might be available on Twitter as well. So please hit them up if you're in the whiskey community. Great whiskey folks. Cheers so much for being part of the Wrestling with Whiskey Patreon Barrel Club and our social media sipping tiers. So tons of news roundup to kind of have with today as I woke up. So there is some exciting stuff. Elijah Craig, I also got very loose word. Maybe we will have in March samples for an Elijah Craig pick with Wrestling with Whiskey. So that'll be fun too. It's gonna be an exciting couple of months. Still talking to Knob Creek. Still talking to potentially Old Elk. So it's a slow churn, guys. You know what I mean? And I appreciate those of you who've been here. I know it has been a slow start. We've only gotten one pick so far. That's why I wanted to keep it, at a low monthly cost. It's like, I appreciate just your support of what I'm doing and what we're trying to build. Hopefully we can expand this. I've got plans. We can talk about it more in the Discord. But guys, tonight I'm going to kind of jump into it. No opening contest tonight. We'll get right to our main event. First of all, actually, I do want to ask, if anybody in the chat, please share your bourbon resolutions, your whiskey resolutions. I shared a little bit last week. I also would love to hear some of your whiskey predictions. If you guys want to talk about it at all, shout it out in the chat. We can kind of debate back and forth if you want a little bit. I had the opportunity to talk to Christopher Hart, Whiskey Pete, out of Houston, Texas, who's doing some really cool stuff. And we had a little group chat with the Bourbon Junkies and Kenny and Ryan from Bourbon Pursuit, little 4-way kind of convo that'll be on Chris's YouTube show and his channel and everything like that. So Whiskey Pete, again, check him out. He's doing some really. I'm gonna have him on the show to talk about his whiskey kind of label that he's putting out. We shared a little bit of his rum, not too long ago. So look forward to that. But we were talking a little bit about what do you guys see for 2021 in the world of spirits, of whiskey, of everything. So if you have something that you think you're gonna see, I would love to hear it. Well, yeah, but what you guys drinking up? We got Eric, Sardog is hanging with some Old Bones 15-year. I have seen and heard a little bit about that, Sardog. I'm gonna have to get on it. I don't know if I've seen it here in Illinois, but I am very curious to you picked some good stuff for this one. Scorpion got that Glenmo. Do you have any particular release of the Glenmo? The Glenmorangie? I mean, is it just the standard 10-year? You got a barrel, you got a sweet barrel finish on there or whatever? I'd be very curious because Wes here has turned me on to some Glenmo and I really like it. Whoa, and hold up for a second. Hold up. We need to hold up. Tim, one of our patrons in the chat, drinking Abraham Bowman, which I know they've done some cool finishes, but gingerbread finish? Whoa. What is a gingerbread finish? How does that even work? Is there a gingerbread barrel that I am unaware of? Has a Cooper been able to put rings around a gingerbread staves tight enough to not leak? I'm very curious about this. Or is it a ginger? Oh, so it's a beer. Ah, there you go. So it's a beer barrel finish, but the beer is a gingerbread stout. Interesting. Do they say what? I'd be curious to see with what brewery that they get that from. I'd be very curious. Eric, working on some barrel bourbon, batch 27. Ooh, I've heard really good things about batch 26. I'd like to try that. I got to get back to barrel. Man, they do some good stuff. Speaking of Dickel, they do some good stuff with taking that infamous Tennessee distillery that some people are not too keen on. We're going to get way into that tonight. But they have a great way of blending it and with other distilleries and other whiskeys and stuff that somehow they just have great palates and they make it work. So I got to get back on the barrel. So gingerbread stout. So Tim, I assume they don't say on the bottle what brewery then the stout came from, because I'd be curious to even try the gingerbread stout. I'm not a beer guy, but that sounds freaking delicious. Doesn't list it. That's fine. But that's actually very, very cool. Scorpion trying the standard 10-year, followed up with the sherry finish. There you go. That's what I like to hear. The little gingerbread dude from Shrek swims in every... Oh, my God. Hello! Oh, wait, that's Mr. Bean. That's something very, very different. But that was actually... So that's one of the predictions that we were talking about today when we were recording the other show this morning, is that a lot of people feel like they are going to see a lot of crazy... more and more crazy and interesting and unique barrel finishes in 2021. Eric in the chat, that's exactly the kind of thing. So even Wild Turkey, which just started playing with barrel finishes, I think Eddie Russell with, what was it? The Revival Master's Keep was the first real finishing job Wild Turkey had ever really done. And so now they're playing with a toasted, I'm not sure if it's toasted barrel or toasted staves. Rarebird would know for sure. But they're going to do a toasted finish for their Master's Keep. So they're like, again, Wild Turkey, super traditional distillery. And even they're trying some different finishes. So look out for a lot of beer barrel collaborations, especially at the craft level. Look for those. I mean, with the rise of Irish whiskey, continue to see Irish whiskey finish, of course, in things like sherry barrels and stuff like that, and bourbon barrels, of course. But see Irish and Scotch trying to do different, finishes. I think we're going to see maybe rum barrel finishes. You know what I mean? I don't want to say it. We tried it before with the tequila in the whiskey barrel. Somebody's going to try it. If there's someone like a Corsair Distillery, somebody's going to try a whiskey. I don't know what kind, whether it's single malt or, Irish or Scotch or a bourbon or a rye, or someone's going to try aging something in a tequila barrel, in an añejo barrel. I'm telling you, someone will try it. It might be awful, but someone is going to do it. Not looking forward to Brexit taxes on Scotch. That's right. Absolutely. The trade war always going to be hurting things. But one interesting thing, if you guys didn't, we talked briefly about it. Hardywood. Okay, there you go. Hardywood Brewing. So if you guys are looking for a gingerbread stout, Hardywood Brewing is something that's very interesting. But in the U.S., they just passed a law that will now allow different bottle sizes here in the U.S. We used to just have like your minis, pretty much. I think there might have been something else. Then they had 375s, 750s, and 1.75s. Now you'll be able to get, I believe, 400 milliliter, 500 milliliter, 700 milliliter, and 1.8 liters. So now I have a feeling you could be seeing some export stuff stay here, which will be some of the one of the bigger things that could happen especially from the larger distilleries. But my prediction for 2021, as far as that goes, I think you're going to see potentially a lot of upstart craft people maybe taking that option as opposed to going to a 750. Hey, maybe we can get 500 more bottles out if we put it in a 500 milliliter bottle, charge a little bit less, but still make a price. So if their 750 was going to have to be $80 because they're young, they're craft, they've got a lot of overhead. Maybe they sell a 500 milliliter bottle for $50, and it doesn't look as small as a 375. So I don't think people will feel as cheated. But you're not feeling like, God, $70, $80 for like a 4-year product or whatever it is. But now they can sell 500, 1,000 extra bottles, still make a decent little margin. They're making a little bit more money. I mean, we're in an age where the average good price for like a decent bottle of whiskey is now $60. You know what I mean? It used to be that, God, if you paid over $40 for a bottle of bourbon, you were insane, like years and years ago. And now $60, $65 is kind of the go-to for a decent bottle of whiskey. You can get excellent bottles cheaper, of course, but it just keeps inching up and up. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see some of these craft distillers putting out their first products, or even if they have sourced barrels from, call it an MGP or Bardstown Bourbon Company or Barton or wherever, getting more out of their stock, so they don't have to get rid of as much. They can still charge a decent amount for, if you have a 8-year MGP and you put it in a 500 milliliter, you can still charge a decent amount for that. And if people know what it is, they will pay for it. So 500 milliliters would last just as long. I think, because we were arguing today a little bit about like, is Buffalo Trace going to try to screw us and move BTAC all to 700 milliliters, right? Get a couple more bottles out, but still charge, 120 MSRP and God knows what else stores will charge secondary for 50 milliliters less. But I don't think they're going to go through all the hassle to rebottle, get the label reapproved if they have to. I don't know if that's part of it. Get another bottle mold for a slightly smaller bottle. I think that's their thing. They're going to leave it as it is, and they're not going to mess with it. But I think the craft guys will use it. So if you guys have any of your predictions, please shout them out in the chat. Hit me up with a message on Instagram at Wrestling with Whiskey. You see the socials below, or Twitter. I want to hear what your predictions for 2021 are. But for tonight, let's get into the meat of the thing. Let's get into the Dickel debate. So everyone, if you're a whiskey enthusiast, if you're a fan, if you're someone who collects like I do, and most of you in the chat are, we all know the name Dickel. That infamous distilled in Tennessee assumption for so long, not as much anymore. But if you saw a craft distillery who, and it wasn't quote unquote distilled in Indiana or something, and it says that distilled in Tennessee, just like Indiana, 9 times out of 10, it was going to be from George Dickel. They've been around long enough. They have the scale. They have the bottling. They have the barrel. They have the stock. They have They have the age. They have all of it. Just like an MGP, just like a Barton. They've been around. They're one of Tennessee's biggest producers. Tullahoma, Tennessee. Everybody knows the reason you know the name Tullahoma, Tennessee, is because of George Dickel. I promise you. But over the last couple of years, a lot of people have always been kind of hit or miss on Dickel. But over the last couple of years, I think it's gone extra sour because they do have a very unique profile, and we'll get into that. But I think they've also been extra soured on the stock and everything in general, because there's a lot of people, I think, who have not necessarily tried to pull the wool over anyone's eyes, but they have, they'll have a bottle of something that they got from MGP, because they got some stock from MGP that's a 12-year MGP, and they'll sell it for $150. But then all they got to do is just change where it was distilled on their label, keep the same bottle, have a 12, 13-year product, cash strength, single barrel product, but it's made in Indiana. But hey, it's still the same age, so we can still charge $150 for it. And Dickel juice is, generally speaking, much more affordable. It's much less expensive than what MGP charges. A lot of their products are much more mid-shelf, lower shelf products and everything like that. So, yeah. Now, that said, a lot of people, you look at something like Sweeten's Cove, Peyton Manning's new venture. It's a 13-year. It is blended. It's not like a single barrel product. It is blended by Marianne Eaves, but it's a 13-year George Dickel product. They're selling it for $200. Well above the kind of industry classic of, you could get away with $10 a year for something, especially if it's well aged. That has obviously been going out the window a lot in recent years, but especially for a new craft brand that nobody's really aware of and hasn't really tried and doesn't have a reputation, we just have 13-year-old barrels and $200. Things like that are happening more and more, especially when people with startups who have some money realize, oh, we can go to Indiana. Oh, we can go to Tennessee and get these. We can get twice as many barrels for the same price as we're getting over here. And they probably have a little bit more aged barrels than MGP does at this point. So, economic dollars and cents. So anyway, that's all a big preface for anybody who's not quite into it. So I wanted to get into a couple options sourced from Dickel and directly from Dickel themselves, just to kind of talk about, because I haven't touched these in a long time. I have 3 bottles tonight, because I kind of fell into the stigma of it all, and I was like, yeah, I got turned off of these. I don't really want to go to them a lot. And I want to try to be as unbiased as possible and really taste these and go I guess what I'm asking is it really that bad? Now, I don't think Dickel cares, because they will still sell these bottles to upstarts, and they will still sell their base product to their loyal customers. They'll still make money, plenty of it. But like I said, we've seen with people like Barrel Bourbon and Barrel Whiskey, they've been able to take it and do blending thing and turn it into something great. But we're looking at a lot of singular Dickel products tonight. We're going to start with a Magnes. Now, Magnes sources both from MGP and Dickel. Again, always make sure you look at the label. Distilled in Tennessee, bottled by Joseph Magnes. So this is a Binny's Pick, cash strength, 58.53 ABV. So about a 116, 117 proof, something like that. And I haven't touched this in a while. You see, I got this, I think I got this a year and a half ago, 2 years. And you'll see, I haven't touched it that much. Sorry, my cat is making a weird noise outside the door. Hopefully, they're not dying. So let's pour this. Binny's is kind of hit or miss for its barrel picks. So we'll kind of see how they go. I remember enjoying this when I first got it. That's the weird thing. I remember enjoying it when I first got it. But man, then I think I got soured a little bit by the by it all. You know what I mean? By the hype, by the talk. So let's dive in. I'm going to try not to pick out the notes everyone picks out. I'm going to try to smell around it, if you will. Hang on, I'm sorry. This cat is making some weird noises. What is going on? Is everybody alive? Okay. Whatever. So this is, again, single barrel Dickel. Now for me, this is bringing me back to when I first tasted it, right? I get a little bit of, I know people get a lot of like I don't know. They say Flintstone vitamin, but like I get a little bit of a medicinal note. I get a little bit of cocoa on these. Like, and they're somewhat, don't take this as gospel, but somewhat reminiscent of like, for me, like the Heaven Hill 6-year bottled and bond. I always got these kind of cocoa-y notes out of it, and I kind of get similar ones, not the same, but similar ones out of this. Old Carter. Yeah, Old Carter is doing some great things with it too. So, but Old Carter, that's one of those, God, some of the prices on those are outrageous. And I can't even touch it. Like any of that stuff. Even for the not very, some of their ryes are not crazy old, but they're charging a lot of money for them. Old Carter has good stuff, but like they rub me the wrong way a little bit with the pricing. And they may need to price it like that, and that's fine. It's just, it won't be in my wheelhouse then. But there is something kind of off about this, and I can't quite put my finger on what it is. It's a little, it is medicinally a little bit, and like not in the grape way that I normally like with a well-aged. This one, by the way, does not have an age statement. So I don't know how old this barrel was. See, See, the initial taste was kind of rough. The middle, as it started finding its footing, the middle wasn't bad. And then the finish is okay. It's a little cocoa-y, a little grapey. I don't get Flintstone. I know that's like a common, like vitamins. It's got this like mineral taste. I don't know if I'd call it mineral. I'd go more medicinal than mineral. But like spicy cocoa. See, like the more I sip it though, it's okay. And maybe that's the problem, is because like a lot of people are putting out like well-aged barrels, And not always selling them for crazy high prices, but still like, remember this was still about, this one in particular, the Magnes brand is also a more expensive brand. This was, I think, a $100 bottle. And especially when I had a friend who did a 14-year MGP Magnes, and his store sold it for that for, I think, $110. Ooh, 10 times better, though. I will give it that. 10 times better. So, Evan, fair point. Flintstone vitamins are medicinal because they're like a but I guess to me, that has like that chewy, or the what's it called? Like the yeah, like a chewable vitamin, like a grunt, like a gristly, minerally kind of thing as far as medicinal. For me, when I say medicinal, I think more of like liquid grape cough medicine. So it has a little bit of grapiness. It's not overly sweet. Yeah, when I think of like the vitamin thing, I think of like chalky. This doesn't remind me of that. I don't get any fruit. That's the one thing in it. I think that's what bugs me most about Dickel. Is it gives me some of these like caramel, some of these cocos, some of that medicinal. But man, I don't get any fruit. So to me, and I think it's also because it's the Dickel, that mash bill is it's kind of like Jack Daniels, but Jack Daniels just seems to have it right a little bit better. It's super high corn. I believe their corn content is in the 80s. So like, I don't think you're getting it. Things aren't well rounded with rye or wheat or whatever, so you don't get those fruit notes. That's just my super layman's assumption. But I get those. I don't get those fruit notes. It's actually a great point, Evan. Those don't come into mind on any Dickel products. And we'll see if that kind of jumps in as we toe the line on the rest of this. So coming up next, you were talking about those old scouts. Here is one of those old scouts. So we talked about Sweetens Cove being a 13-year Dickel blend for $200. Well, the positive thing I can say right off the bat is this is a 13-year cast strength single barrel, only a single barrel, and this is, I believe, also from Binny's. This was $60 though. Age stated, cast strength barrel, $60 for a bottle. The other 13-year, a blend, so it might be a little bit more balanced and delicate, but for more than 3 times the price of this bottle, that's where branding and names and everything goes, folks. So let's pour this. I remember really liking this when I first got it. So I'll be curious. I have not touched this in a long time. Come on. I flippin' want Dickel to wow me tonight. Like, I haven't touched anything in a year and a half for them. I want them. I want to be able to go back. I want to go back. But we'll see. This has like more of that, I guess. This has more of that, like, same kind of notes. A little bit lighter, actually. The proof is a little bit lower, so it's lighter on the nose. I'm still getting the cocoa things. Also not a lot of fruit. No citrusy flavors. This one I'm not even getting I'm getting a little bit of like grape. Grape and oak, which to me, I kind of think are the same thing. I think that's my signifier for oak, is kind of like a grapiness. That's a little nicer. Very chocolatey. Nice finish on that one. I actually like the finish on that one. It's bitter, but in the way I kind of like it. It's nice, but it's one-dimensional. And by the way, please sound off in the chat if you have a thought on George Dickel or George Dickel Source products. I'd be very curious to hear your take. You don't just have to listen to me. Let me know, like, are you all good with it? Do you avoid it like the plague? Are you searching on bottles and double checking to make sure it's not distilled in Tennessee? Even talking to Bourbon Pursuit, their new Pursuit United includes Tennessee bourbon that they can't disclose from NDAs, but they do make sure to tell you not from a distillery in Tullahoma. So it's from a I think a more craft distillery that they got some barrels from. But even they kind of go out of their way to say it but not say it, sort of a thing. So yeah, sound off chat. Let me know if you are someone who avoids it like the plague, if you love it, or if you're good with it if it shows up. Let me know. But this one I'm finding more pleasant all around, but it basically takes the harsher things of this first one, dumbs them down a little bit, but it stays consistent, but just a little bit nicer. DDT, this is the first you've heard? Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I know you're newer to whiskey, so this is kind of an inside baseball thing. But yeah, it has this kind of funky reputation because it's this huge company. It's huge company, George Dickel. Oh, I believe somebody in the chat, I hope I'm not making a huge misstep here. I believe owned by Diageo. So that's what helps them really get a lot of producing power and all that stuff. And yeah, they've sourced a lot of bourbon for a lot of startups and everything like that, and people have very strong opinions about it. If they use it the right way, that's right. Like I said, barrel blends it well. A couple of other people have blended it well, and I think if you find the right single barrels, this one's okay. I think it can be pretty good. But man, cocoa, oak, okay spice, hits way in the back of the palate. No fruit at all. It's so dull in that department. God bless it. Better than the first, but still, man, I'm really trying to be objective and not think, but it's okay. 13-year bottle amount was one of the worst things. 11 was better than 13. Yeah, I usually avoid it too. I'm the same way. Because it doesn't hit with me. I like fruit. I like floral. I like rye spice. I like all of that. Well, you guys, it wouldn't be an exciting main event without a big heel. So here we have the George Dickel 13-year bottled in bond. The infamous whiskey that kind of pissed off. I mean, people already didn't necessarily trust Whiskey Advocate, but people already threw them under the bus. When this won Whiskey of the Year, I got interviewed by Whiskey Advocate right after this was announced, Whiskey of the Year. And I had to I will be perfectly honest, because the interviewer pressed me on it. It was like, oh yeah, some people are really upset we did this. I was like, I'm like, hey, if you really thought, I'll believe you that, you weren't paid and all that stuff. And I will believe that. I looked him in the eye and I don't know. I believe that. But I'm like, your guys, if you really think that was the best whiskey of the year, I did love the price point. I love that somebody was putting out a 13-year bottled in bond for $40. I appreciate that. In a market where they could have charged a lot, they didn't have to go crazy, but they could have charged $60 for it and people would have paid it. Dun, dun, dun. The other thing about this, and some of it is because I might not be familiar, this label is weird. And I don't know if they fixed it on the 11 year. Perhaps Tim in the chat can let me know. Is Costco sourced from Dickel? I don't think so. It's always possible. They have to legally put the state of distillation on the back of labels, so double check. If it says Tennessee, it's probably Dickel. I don't think so, though. I think Costco will get either Barton or Heaven Hill stuff, usually. I don't know. This one, like, it's not stated 13-year, like, on the front, which you think, like, if you're putting out a 13-year product, especially in, like, this was 2018 or whatever, why would you not put that right center? George Dickel, 13-year. That would, I mean, it flew off anyway, but that would fly off the shelves. And I remember something, this bottled and bond, the Bottled and Bond Act 1897 is an old law, but it's important to know, to be considered bonded, whiskey must come from a single distillation season and distillery aged for at least 4 years, unaltered, except using water to reduce proof to 100 degrees. Now, that was the one thing. I've never heard proof referred to as degrees, but I think that might be acceptable. I remember when I first read it, I was like, what? 100 degrees? 100 proof is different than 100 degrees. But I believe I think proof degrees was kind of like a term back in the day. So it does say, batch comes from barrels maturing since the fall of 2005 with a taste that's bold and complex. Yes. And then it said something else. Yeah, George discovered that the whiskey made in cold months tasted smoother. Today we follow this tradition by chilling our whiskey before filtering it. So it is chill filtered. But I don't know what that has to do with the season it was distilled in versus just taking it and chill filtering. It's just a funky label a little bit. It's strange. Good old Cascade Hollow. I don't know, guys. It's a little weird. So, like, George made his, I don't know. Let's just drink this shit. There are small letters on the 11 year. Well, at least they put it there. Like, this just said yeah, because it was released in 2018 and it was distilled in 2005. And I'm like, I just don't know why you wouldn't state it on the label. It just seems like such an easy seller, especially in today's whiskey market. But this was Whiskey Advocate's Whiskey of the Year. Again, price point was awesome. I don't know, and I think they're back to 13 years again for this year's Bottle and Bond release. And I think they've kept the price point pretty consistent too. It's in that $30, $40 range, which is insane for 10 plus year bourbon. Insane. So, Whiskey of the Year, ladies and gentlemen. So this is batched. This is not cask strength. So it will be a little bit different profile than the other two. Kind of. You know what I mean? Scorpion, my wife is drinking the 12-year Dickel. Double check. It's probably not 12-year Dickel. A lot of people have made them. It's probably Dickel number 12. Which is just the name of the brand. It has nothing, if you notice, it has nothing to do with the age. If it is like a 12-year single barrel or something, fantastic. But there's been several labels that just put out like a number and tell you some story about it, and it looks like an age on the front of it. It's like Old Carter 8. It used to be, or Old Charter. Or is it Old Carter? God, so many. It used to have an 8-year, and then they took the years, the statement off, but they left the 8. It's like Old Carter number 8. So, Just check that out. Like I always, Dickel does that with a couple of different numbers. It's kind of annoying if you ask me. If you're not stating the age, keep big numbers off your labels. It sucks. I think it's so. They're technically not doing anything wrong, but I think it's bullshit. And to me, it's a trick. This one sucks. I don't know. It's more subtle. Then Dickel 8. See that? Yeah. So Dickel has an 8 as well. Again, it's not 8 years old. It's just Dickel number 8. Same profile, man. It's a little more subtle, but same profile. Dickel. Is your name Dick? Oh, Dick, I didn't put together that. You talked about the Bar Sound 4. I didn't put together the trickiest Dick is DDT here. You have a lot of D names on social media. I did not put that together, Mr. Nixon. Forgive me on that one. This one's actually kind of harsh for being lower proof. It's actually kind of harsh with alcohol. Old Charter. Yeah, Old Carter, Old Charter, Old Charter Oak from Buffalo Trace. It's ridiculous. I don't know how these guys don't sue each other. Especially Buffalo Sazerac. They're legal happy like nobody's business. Yeah, this is 100 proof. And this is way harsher than these, 100, 112, 116, or 108, 116 proof single barrels. But like, that is astringent. Wow. There's some more interesting like caramel notes and everything, but there's more of a metallic-y note. Well, I mean, it's got all that oak on there, but so maybe that's the thing with Dickel. A lot of things like I love, and you guys know I love the Knob Creek 12 here, and I loved it proof down to 100 proof because I like the oak notes that are in there. You bring it down a little, it brings out a little bit more of the wood notes, right? As opposed to like that 120 proof we're used to on the single barrel and everything. So I like it sometimes when older whiskeys are brought down to 100 or in the 90s or something like that. That's what I like about Weller 12, too. I like that it's not foolproof kind of thing. I like that it's in the 90s. You get those oak notes. I'm a fan of oak tannins. But Dickel should not bring down the proof. It brings it, there's more oak. This is 13 years, so there's a lot of oak on here, but especially when you don't have that rye content, when you don't have those floral notes, those fruity notes. There's so much corn and the charcoal, whatever the hell they do in Tullahoma, that like at lower proofs, it's just like blah. Right at the beginning, there's a pleasant like caramel, a little bit of that chocolate, just a little bit this time. No, like right the first second. After that, it's just bitter, barky, not woof woof, like chewing on bark. And I guess it's not quite as medicinal as the other two because it's not as high proof, but I don't know. I don't know, folks. I don't know. I think Dickel let me down. So in other news, if anybody's looking to buy some whiskey, I've got a couple options for you. Hit me up in maybe the Discord or DMs. I will gladly send these to you. Cost plus shipping. You guys can tell your friend. I mean, they're all like well aged bourbon. You can just tell them that. Yeah, I'll be. You know what? I'm just gonna start my own illegal NDP. I'm just gonna get all these like cheap Dickel picks. Oh my god, I have to create a label with that. Oh my god, I feel like wrestling with whiskey. Oh my god, we have to do a pick. Oh, when we get enough members where we can, I feel bad, where we can kind of throw away a pick. We should select a pick from whether, I don't know if Dickel will do it. Like we could do one of theirs. Or like somebody who's sourcing from them. And yes, we have to call it unsolicited Dickel picks. Or like an unsolicited, like Dickel pick. Or we could call it a dick pick or something. Oh God, that's so bad, but so good. Oh my God. Dickel picks. Anyway, I'm going to take some Dickel barrel selections. I've got a couple of and I'm just going to put them into like 200 milliliter bottles and sell them as a boutique like NDP and sell them for like $30 a 200 ml. Just be like, yeah, this is like 13-year whiskey. A blend of 13-year bottles or something, or 13-year barrels. And I'll blend a bunch of like 13-year picks that are like $60 each, and I'll blend them into a little bottle. Anyway, I'm not going to tell you all my master plans, but we'll go back to the chat. Oh. Unsolicited Dickel picks. That's we're going to have to do it at some point. I've gone I mean, I just drank three samples of Dickel, Eric, so you'll have to forgive me a little bit. MGP and Barton would make a hell of a blend. Absolutely. I give a lot of credit to the guys in the distilleries and the companies, the blenders, whoever, who can take this and throw it in with something else and make something really good. Again, I keep coming back. Barrel, got some merch there. They do a really good job of it. The infamous Barrel Bourbon Batch 11 that won San Francisco, I believe, is either almost all or mostly Dickel. So there are people who like it. Ben, you're in on the Dickel pick? There you go. Well, we'll see. We'll see, guys. Well, speaking of Dickel picks, I'm just going to throw it out there one more time. If there's anybody new in the chat, make sure you check out the patreon.com/wrestlingwithwhiskey. We've got 2 tiers, but the Barrel Club, just to enter the Barrel Club, is tier 1. Join us. We have a Discord. We have all kinds of fun in there. I'm putting up a little bit of different content every now and then. And then you get to help. You get the possibility of helping on selections like what we're doing with our new riff live and in person. And we're also doing a Remus pick and many others coming down the line. And those patrons who joined our social media sipping patrons, Steph, Jason, Mark, and Travis, check them out if you are in the whiskey Instagram and social media community. I appreciate them for joining our tier, but they're also just all around cool people in the whiskey world. So check them out. You will see them also on upcoming episodes of this Wrestling with Whiskey Weekly. But for now, I have to say adieu. I will be going live on Twitch if people want to come and totally take a different degree. I'm going to be playing some games for a little bit over on Twitch, Drama King Matt, if that is your wheelhouse. But until then, always be giving something another go, even if it's something you don't like it, at least 2 or 3 times, just to make sure you don't like it. And always, always, always be wrestling with whiskey. Thank you guys. Have a good one, and we'll see you on the next one.